Welcome everyone to another episode of the Ol'Timers Comic Book Show. The show where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. It is my favorite time of the week, hanging with some of my favorite people. It's the Professor.
Hey, Johnny, how you doing?
I'm fine, man. How are you?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And also, it's the 13th Crusader.
Howdy.
Hey,
Buenos dias, señor.
Buenos días. ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien. Gracias.
¿De qué va a hablar hoy?
Whatever that was.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
It means what are you going to talk about today?
Right. See, I'm going to Ibiza in a I don't want to brag too much, but I'm going to Ibiza in 42 days. No, 49 days, so 7 weeks. So I need a crash course in Spanish, please. And not the swear words.
Oh, man.
Oh man. Yeah. Don't be telling me I really love She-Hulk in Spanish, please. Thanks. None of that stuff.
And you're going to trust me to teach you words?
Well, it's either you or Sesame Street.
oh, jeez.
Amigo, another word for friend. See? I've got it. I'm there.
I'll teach Johnny I hate fishnets in Spanish.
Fishnets mal. Said I never. All right. Okay. Before we get into the books, we have the sad news of a passing of an American comic artist, Don Perlin, who was probably best known for things like Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, Defenders, Ghost Rider. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about Valiant Comics. He's listed as a co-creator of Bloodshot. That'd be interesting to see how all that went down. Guys, let's see, how old was he? 94. It's a good age. It's a good age.
He had a good run. That's what we call it.
Good run. Can you remember seeing his art previously?
Yeah, I remember seeing his name all over some like the kind of like not the top tier titles, but the second tier titles, and a lot of times like a fill-in artist, it'd be Don Perlin, would be your typical. I would call him a staff artist.
All right.
Kind of like hang around the bullpen, take the jobs no one else wants. So so you see him on Ghost Rider and Defenders. The second tier books.
But you can't say Defenders is a second tier book. 13th loves Defenders.
Yeah, but it's a second tier book.
I'll defend the Defenders.
That's like saying the Champions are like a Zingless book.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with you.
It's a pick on me there.
Johnny's ears are bleeding because we're going to teach him fishnets are bad in Spanish.
And now you're just the Champions? Oh my God.
I agreed with you, Johnny. I didn't
deserve that was said as a facetious comment. I like the Champions.
What do you want me to say?
So
it got great right before it got canceled. John Byrne on it.
So our condolences to Don's family. Thank you for all the great work that shows like this recognize. The fact we talk about comics of yesteryear, staff artists. You might think of them as 10 a penny, but they're not. They're the glue that holds the schedule together for sure. So thank you for your efforts. Thank you so much. Cool. Right. We've got a bit of a mix of theme up here. We were going to talk about books we'd give away for free to get somebody interested in comic books. And then we kind of fell afoul of the fact that only one of us has a photographic memory, 13th Crusader, who remembers all the things that we've talked about in the past. So I know the myriad of books that we've talked about, we need to move on from those and talk about something else. So we've gone up with a classic, a comic book classic, the Team Up. What is it about team ups we love so much, Professor?
You always love to see the heroes that have their own books team up sometimes. we loved Spider-Man Marvel team up because it was
Mhm.
Spider-Man and then he was teaming up with everybody else in the Marvel universe. I always like to see the different characterizations and the how they get along, and um, it was always interesting. And
Mm.
I, the books that we're talking about, some interesting relationships in there and some
Mhm.
cross company type stuff. We've talked about cross company team ups before.
Yeah, for sure.
But these are some that maybe slipped through the cracks the last time we talked about it.
Indeed, I think one of them should have stayed between the cracks, but that's just a me thing. 13. I mean, Bud's mentioned Marvel Team Up, which is possibly the biggest Marvel Team Up book you've got. There's also Thing 2-in-1.
Yep.
Marvel 2-in-1.
Marvel 2-in-1.
Marvel 2-in-1, sorry. And then you also had for DC, you had my personal favorite, The Brave and the Bold, and DC Comics Presents. Any others that kind of spring to mind?
Not at the moment, but those are good examples of the team up. And in my view, team ups should be an exception, not a rule.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the case of intercompany crossovers, right? Where it's something where you're not supposed to see all the time, but when you do, you just enjoy it for what it is. And it's not just the fictional characters that are teaming up within the book, but it's also could be creators that may not get a chance to work together, and they take advantage of that.
I was just going to say, the team up books would be the exact kind of book you would see Don Perlin on.
That are the annuals.
Yeah.
Annuals. All right, excellent. Okay, so we're going to start off, and by hook or by crook, we've got a bit bat centric. We've had a couple of episodes where it's been all Marvel, and somewhere along the line, we've gone bat centric, which is fine because Batman is probably the one character in DC that gets teamed up everywhere. He's been with the Alien, no, did he do Alien? Did Predator?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's done Judge Dredd.
Yeah, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
He did this. Batman, Hellboy, Starman. This isn't. I've got to say, this isn't a book title that just like rolls off the tongue very easily. But we'll give it the once over. This is number one. It's from January '99, so it just makes our 25-year cutoff. Just making the list. Well done. eBay, you can buy this. It's a strange one, this one. Again, watch out for the grades when you're on eBay. But you can buy the single issue for anywhere between £10 to £20. Or I have seen the 1 and 2 together for 25. In one of those strange quirks of fate, the Go Collect, which is predominantly US prices, a grade 9 will cost you $20. So it's comparative. Written by one of my favorite and underrated writers, I think, James Robinson. Art by Mike Mignola, or Mignola, depending on how you want to pronounce the G. Matt Hollingsworth is on colors, and Willie Schubert is on letters. I love Robinson, I love Mignola, so I'm pretty much kind of sold on this.
I actually thought you said Mike Mediocre.
Okay. Somebody has clearly had their Weetabix this morning. All right, 13th, this was your choice. What was it about the trio that excited you so much?
When would you ever see these three guys together?
Well, barely ever, and that's
Correct.
That's true in this book and its second part. The three are barely together.
Correct. So the odds of them teaming up, it's Starman makes it that character like who? So
Well, to defend that a little bit, James Robinson was writing Starman at this point in time. So
He was.
and that was a very niche hit for DC back then.
It was a really good. The Starman book by Robinson was great. It was a great read for sure. Cool.
I'll be the first one to admit that I am not a fan of Mignola's art. I never have been. If I enjoyed his art, probably would have been in the Cosmic Odyssey. That's pretty much where I draw
Gotham
the
by
line.
Gaslight.
That too, I'll give him that. But I'm just not a fan favorite of the art. Although I believe that for Hellboy, it works. If that's fair. So this story, first of all, the book, to your point, the odds of these three characters in the same book teaming up are slim to none. Um, I'm not really an expert on Hellboy. I never really got into Hellboy. Just recently, I'd say in the past year, I've kind of dabbled in it just to kind of get some exposure to it. But I'm not gonna say that I'm a die-hard Hellboy fan. But this is where, to Johnny's point earlier, when it comes to certain team up books, when you team them up with another character, that may help someone like me who really didn't have a
Yeah,
clue about Hellboy back in
that's a
these
good shout.
days. And now I'm like, okay, I've seen him around. I know he's popular. Now I get to learn a little bit about him. As
Mm.
far as Starman, I'm obviously more familiar with the original Starman from the Justice Society of America days.
Ted Knight.
So the Ted Knight
Hmm.
Starman. So for his son, I was not too familiar with that. So I guess that's a win-win in trying to learn um, the nuances of each of these characters and how do they interact and things like that. And then you have Batman. Um, this is a pretty, I would say, straightforward story
Hmm.
where when you're dealing with anything Hellboy related, there's gonna be some sort of paranormal activity with that. And then the book opens up with Batman chasing the Joker. What else is new? And he's on another case to try to capture the Joker. That should be in the world of comics. Everybody knows that that's pretty much Batman's MO when it comes to Joker. But what makes this,
Chasing him.
yeah, chasing him and then trying to stop him from hurting the citizens of Gotham and whatnot. But as far as Ted Knight's involvement and Jack Knight, the younger Starman, uh, Ted Knight's involvement really is a group of Nazis are after him to help use take advantage of his brain to help summon forth some sort of entity. So that's how you get Starman looped into this, and this happens in Gotham, and obviously that gets Batman's attention.
Hmm.
Hellboy is called in to assist. So I thought it was funny on how many panels were used to kind of justify Hellboy to hang out with Batman,
Yeah.
just with the script. It because I to me, like, what I know about Hellboy is, like, I don't think he cares if you're there or not.
Mm.
Same as Batman, but here it's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna help you, and I want to help you, or you're gonna come with me. So that part was a little confusing for me as far as the personalities are concerned there. Um, but that's pretty much the gist of the story, where they're trying to stop this group from summoning a paranormal god, and that means that kidnapping the original Starman, and then that gets his son involved because he wants to help bring his dad back home, and that
Mm.
spills over into part two. And what's funny is in part two, Batman's out of the picture, and it's just Starman and Hellboy
Yeah. If I
because
was,
Batman's got to go after the Joker.
which we don't see, by the
Correct.
way.
It's just a assumed. Don't worry, Batman's on it, and he'll resolve it. And I was kind of like, oh well, whatever, you know.
I'd be taking this book back to the comic book shop and false pretenses.
Hmm.
He's barely
Yeah,
in it. Barely.
and yeah, and
Carry
again,
on.
I'm not wild about this story too much. It's just, to me, it's a get to know Hellboy and Starman if you don't know them book.
All right. Okay. An interesting way of looking at it.
And
So,
I
go on.
selected it too because we don't really talk about Dark Horse all that often. So
That's true. That's a good call.
Mhm.
Um, right. I will say this then. Who do you think benefits from this book, Professor? Is it Batman? Is it Hellboy? Or is it Starman?
Hellboy 100% because DC already owns Starman, but Hellboy benefits because you have the Batman fans. You know, well, you're one of them. They buy anything Batman on a
I
cover.
didn't buy this, don't you? Wash your mouth out with wash your mouth out with
Were you
Champions comic books.
were
I
you
did not buy this at all.
were, were you buying comics around this time?
No, I wasn't.
So there you go.
But
Johnny,
to be
if we
fair,
bought this, would you accept it as a gift because
I'd accept.
Batman's in it?
I'd accept it as a gift because I'm very gracious about things like that. But would I have bought it? Nope.
This well, I see. I think this book gave Hellboy the exposure that he didn't have previously.
Hmm.
This was before the movie came out, so nobody knew who Hellboy was unless you bought Dark Horse. Um, and you'd read this and you're wondering, well, how come Dark Horse published this and why isn't it over at Image or something like that? But that was really kind of the one thing that I was wondering about back in the day, because right around here was, well, what was this 1999, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's why isn't Hellboy at Image? Why is it at Dark Horse?
Well, Mignola had his foot in with DC, so that's your connection there, and then Hellboy was his baby.
Right.
Okay, so does anyone know Hellboy's first appearance?
It was a Dark Horse Comics Presents, I think, wasn't it?
Was it?
But I don't know what number.
Book?
Go on. It wasn't Dark Comic Presents. No, Dark Horse
Was
Comics
it
Presents.
Next Men? John Byrne's Next Men?
It was. Do you know what number?
Is it number 4?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not number 13 either. It's 21.
Okay, so I'm way off, but I got the title at least.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I own that. So I had the
Really?
first appearance of Hellboy. I didn't even know I had it.
There you go. Well done. Congratulations. Would you like to know how much that's worth?
No, I can possibly never sell that book now.
Why not? Well, you can't.
First appearance of Hellboy. Come on.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of Hellboy I didn't know I owned. No, I can't get rid of that. That's crazy talk. This book, I like James Robinson. I like his writing. I've read him on a number of different things. He did this. He did Starman. He also did Share the Challenger Man later on, which is really cool. Again, one of those niche books. But this just screams. Let's take the pennies from the kids. To be honest, and it really is unbelievable. Oh, it's not that expensive. You're all right. First appearance of Hellboy at 9.6 on Go Collect is on average $190.
Huh.
So it's not that. It's not all that then. Sorry.
Well, I would say about this book, I was not as I'm not a big fan of Mignola's art anyway. It's very muddy to me.
This isn't the best example of that either, by the way.
No, there's a lot of green. But anyway, I'm not as kind of offended by his Batman art as I am about like when I see him normally, except for that page that you were just on, that Batman looks so thick. Swing that one there, upper left. What the heck is that? His chest is so wide, and his head is
Batman.
relatively tiny. I was saying, the shield's too high. I'm like, what the heck is that? But anyway, that was the biggest problem I had with that issue. On that, that picture too.
Yeah, I mean the second issue. I looked at the second issue just to kind of see what the conclusion was, and I have to be honest, I did not finish it because I was like, "What is this?" On top of that, it's, as we mentioned before, it's a great no. It's even, I mean, he's not even in the book, Batman. He's in one panel, and even then, it's, oh look, there's Batman, and that's it. He gets called away practically because the Joker's got some sort of nefarious scheme going on. We don't even get to see what the outcome of the scheme is.
Yep. Batman's in issue 1, Starman makes a cameo, and then vice versa in issue 2.
It's just
interesting.
It's just piss poor. And I think part of the problem here is DC Comics were losing ground around this time. Losing ground left over right practically to anybody who put out a comic book. Marvel and Image were absolutely top dog back then. So, farming out the best character or the perceived best character to other comic companies to get some traction seems the way to go.
Mm-hmm. And like you said before, they were whoring Batman out. Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first book definitely felt more of a Batman book. The book 2 was definitely a Hellboy comic.
Yeah, definitely. But I suppose by doing that, they got rid of that usual stuff. Because I think when companies do team ups, there's always the idea that both characters have to come up like they're the best.
Hmm.
Which one of them's going to play second fiddle? That's
Right.
the main crux of
And-
it, because you don't want Batman to go team up with someone who can kick his ass all the time. Or you don't want both heroes have to be held at that balance, and
And
that gives it a little bit of an
and to
oddity.
piggyback on what you're just saying now, Machine, is typical of team up books that both heroes end up fighting each other and then saying, "Okay, well, nice to meet you."
Yeah.
That didn't happen here.
No.
It's not at all.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that that Batman shows up at the Bat Signal and Hellboy's there, and he's like, "Hellboy, like, hey."
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
I was like,
Yeah.
did I miss an issue?
Yeah. Yeah. I wish I'd missed an issue. It was an odd one, considering how much I like both creators. I don't think it's their best work.
Money grab.
Yeah, pretty much for sure.
I'm glad he didn't turn around and say, "Hey, Etrigan." I mean, I'm sorry.
If you start talking in rhyme, that'd been funny.
Wouldn't that? I thought that would be a better team up, to be honest, in my opinion. But
I know, but you can't. Who's going to what? Hellboy and Etrigan?
yeah,
That would make more sense for sure. But Etrigan, you talk about James Robinson's Starman being a niche book. How many people? Actually, that said, my wife knows the Etrigan rhyme. So, the begone, begone, the form of man.
yeah,
She knows that better than she knows the Green Lantern Oath.
yeah. And I thought of Dr. Fate too, as like, if I had this in front of me, which characters besides Batman, I probably would have gone Dr. Fate or Etrigan. But that's
Again, another very niche character that has no pulling power. I'm not saying, right, if anyone's listening, watching this and saying, "Oh, I'm just in this," I'm not. I love Dr. Fate. I love Dr. Fate a lot. I'm on the fence with Etrigan, but he's not a popular character. He's just not popular. I mean, Doc Strange doesn't sell, and that's got Jed McKay on it. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I had
Strangely
Steve
enough.
Ditko one. Well, that wasn't selling either. But never mind. Right, time for an advert before we get into our next couple of books. Where shall we go? I'll tell you what, we'll have this one. It was recorded earlier today. Check out the No Prize Podcast.
Hey.
The No Prize Podcast for everything Marvel story. That guy.
And that guy.
Yeah. Check it out. It's live. It dropped yesterday. Talking up the X-Men 97, which ended recently. So have a listen to see what we thought.
Do you think they call season 2 X-Men 98?
I don't understand where the 97 comes from. I'm not gonna lie, because it came out in 92, 93.
Did it? But the last season came out in 96, right?
I don't know. Did it?
I don't know. So I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. I don't know.
Get the Google figures going.
We can talk about it on this show because it's within the time frame.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. All right, next up, it's old Bat Chops again. And this time he's crossing the border with Image. At the time, Image was the king, so therefore we have to give credit where credit is due for trying to make a book out of all this. It's Batman and Spawn War Devil #1 from June 94. eBay, you can get it for around £8, but again, be careful of the grade. There are some various prices on there. I saw one, I think it was from the States, trying to charge £432 pounds for this. I was like, really? 432? Go Collect as a grade 9 has this as $26. So again, it's not an expensive book. That said, it's got an absolute peach of a writing crew. Doug Monch, Chuck Dixon, and the late Alan Grant, all of whom were bat level tier god writers at the time for DC on the various Bat books. You've got art and colours by Klaus Janson, although there are some computer colours in there by Steve Buccellato, and Todd Klein is on letters. Why is this book existing? I think I've explained that already. But this was your choice, right, man?
It was. And we talked about it earlier. You're like, who benefits from this team up? At this point, I think Spawn might have had the edge over Batman.
Agreed.
With this is 1994. Spawn had one of the biggest launches in 92, right?
The biggest independent sales, number one.
Yes. So, Spawn didn't really need any help in the area of sales. This was one of those, I think, organic team ups where if you were going to have an intercompany crossover, who would you like to see Batman team up with? And Spawn would have probably been at the top of everybody's list in 1994. So, wasn't surprised to see this at all. The thing that really kind of surprised me is that they basically it was the entire Bat team that did this book. There was Todd McFarlane didn't really have a hand in it. It was just hey, we're borrowing Spawn for a couple of months, and
just imagine if it looked like just imagine if McFarlane had it. Oh, how gorgeous it would have been.
Well, Klaus Janson did the art, and he's a Batman artist, so it was this whole thing was just it was like a Bat book with Spawn in it, and of course, like we just said in the Hellboy book, with Spawn comes the Demon from Hell, Devil stuff, which tied into everything pretty good. It's a little weird to see Batman dealing with this stuff because kind of almost like a fish out of water in this. There's no typical Bat villains in here as far as if I remember from reading it this morning, but I read a lot of Batman stuff this morning. So there was a new character here, Simon Vesper. Yeah. That ties Batman and Spawn together in ways that you didn't really know. Apparently Spawn, when he was alive in his Al Simmons existence, assassinated Simon Vesper. And apparently he was one of the developers in Gotham City, and they're going to build the city, and his brother or his cousin or something that is carrying out the work. But then you see throughout this book that Vesper comes back to life somehow, which is not explained in the first issue, but he comes back to build his building, takes out his I know,
building. Great use of English there.
Sorry.
Next does he drink a drink?
He drinks a drink, smokes a smoke. So anyway, the big reveal here, Simon Vesper's actually the demon Croatoa, which they throw a couple of pages in the beginning to make you remember Croatoa and Jamestown, the Jamestown massacre from 400 years before, and now apparently Croatoa is a demon, and now the demon actually makes his appearance here, and we know that Batman and Spawn are going to have to fight him in the coming soon issue 2. But this issue was basically the gratuitous fight, get to know you, and then team up. So
and Spawn's suit, what's on him? The suit doesn't let him fight. Huh? I was like, I'm gonna be honest. I've never read Spawn. Never, ever, ever. I saw it when it was out on the racks, and I moved away from it. Warp Speed. I thought at the time, I still think it, to be honest, Spawn is image over story, and it was proven by issue 9-10 McFarlane had to go out and get writers to take over the writing of the book because it looked pretty, but
unreadable.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did his suit have powers? 13th, do you remember? Oh, sorry, Professor.
The suit was kind of
Sentient.
it wasn't like a Venom suit, but it might as well have been. It was a sentient suit with the cape did its own thing, kind of like Doctor Strange's cape in the movies. The chains did their own things and stuff like that. It was it was Spawn's kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different characters. Looks like Spider-Man, acts, got the Ghost Rider origin story. Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, Spawn's not one of my favorite characters, but it was kind of interesting to see him work with Batman here. I think they did get the characterization right of both characters, which I thought was
okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I'm not of the same ilk on this one. I don't think. 13th. What was your take on this one?
I agree with you guys. I almost wonder what would have happened if McFarlane drew this and then Klaus Janson inked it rather than Klaus Janson do the whole thing. The artwork with Klaus Janson, familiar with that. It reminded me a lot of the Cult, that book that he drew for Batman. As far as Spawn,
Bernie Wrightson.
Bernie Wrights. Yeah, that's right. No, he inked that book.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Gothic was the Legends
that's the
story
one
he did.
Yep, correct. That was a good story too.
Gothics. Even now, Gothic still gives me nightmares. Even now, I read it. It's like, I have to read it all. I can't stop halfway through, or else Mr. Whisper's going to come and get me.
Yeah. So this is not the only Batman Spawn team up / book that they have together. So with this one felt a little bit more fleshed out than the other one that was released, I believe, the same year, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, you have the trifecta of Batman writers here, and one thing I know about all three of them, whether they're working independently or together, they like everything fleshed out in Gotham. Like everything has to be organic, it has to make sense, it has to tie together. Because why? You're writing a Batman book. He's a detective at the end of the day, so you want to give the readers something that they can kind of latch onto, and you're figuring out the case along with Batman. So that was my approach going into this. And then you throw Spawn in here, who in his book, I agree with you guys, where the writing early in his run, it kind of took away from what I think was a brilliant plot by McFarlane. I just think he couldn't flesh it out script wise. Art wise, yeah, it was a pretty book.
I mean, there was a Spawn Batman. So the way this works is there's two crossovers of this time. Batman Spawn, done with the DC guys, and then Spawn Batman, done by the Image guys, written by Frank Miller with art by Todd McFarlane. So, both came out as kind of they're separate of each other, but kind of connected. Maybe we should have looked at that one.
Yeah, so Spawn is in here, and in reading his personality in here, it's close but no cigar.
Really?
Spawn is a much more traumatized character, and very angry at the world and mostly at himself. So, yeah, he's trying to put pieces of his past together, and they use the writers here use that to their advantage and to kind of get him to go to Gotham City, right, through Vesper. So that's where you make that connection. This is totally Spawn living in Gotham this time, and Batman looking into what's going on with Vesper and things like that. So naturally with Spawn, you have to add a supernatural element, which Batman is not unfamiliar with. But then again, to your guys' point, both of these heroes are very well known these days. But back then, Spawn was all the rave, as they say. And I think there was a mutual benefit, because, like, look at the writers that are handling him in this story. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think this worked for everybody. I don't think this is one like the previous book we covered, where I felt Hellboy definitely won advantage wise and maybe gaining new fans. Here, I think it was just something the fans wanted to see.
Okay.
and they made it happen.
So, go back to one of our original plot points or theories for an episode. Give a comic away to get people interested. If someone gave me this book to get me interested in Spawn, and they gave me it because I was a Batman fan, I would not be picking up Spawn on the back of this. The character comes across so like he's got no self-esteem or confidence or anything. He comes across subservient. And I'm like, what? Almost submissive in places where it says, a man who knows what his real face is and wears it with no apology, the kind of man I'll be.
He's
Come on.
missing an edge, as I was saying. You know, this is
Yeah, it's
not.
just, I'd imagine Spawn to be like, all like, rah, but he's all like, wah.
In
Yeah, but
his,
that's what he was like in his book at the beginning too. I mean, that's why I didn't stick with Spawn long term, because it was he seemed like he whined a lot.
I don't think he has Silver Surfer syndrome. He was more aggressive, way more aggressive, especially when he was angry, and he was not afraid to go after anything good or evil because of his human life of being a mercenary and things like that. He knew how to kill and things like. There are none of those elements in here.
Yeah.
This is mostly more on the supernatural side of Spawn than anything else.
And isn't he supposed to, when he uses his powers, it doesn't have a clock that ticks down?
Yeah.
That's not in this book at all.
This
To
is
me.
off the clock. Yeah.
He's got the clock.
This is overtime.
Mhm.
Should be charging him double then. I don't know. So I mean, I don't know enough about Spawn to say it's a fair representation of the character or not. I just don't. So I'm not going to say that. What I will say is the character comes across quite weedy and he seems super powerful with no means of recourse, and yet he still whinges on like a little girl. It's like, ugh.
Take a look at the creators here, right? These 3 writers have written tons of Batman stories, so they know Batman inside and out, Gotham, how it ticks. Now you have this character in their care, per se, right? And it's missing that edge. So one thing I think that in between the lines here, there's no doubt that the experience factor, Batman is the most experienced, and they're not afraid to tell you that without writing it in here.
Okay,
So
cool.
Spawn is still the new kid on the block, and I think that's the treatment he got here.
All right, you know what? That's a fair counterpoint for sure. For sure. It's interesting, of course, that on Spawn's book, the Spawn Batman book, both Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane have worked on Batman previously. So everyone's a Batman creator.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? Right. I went with a book that is a little bit out there, and you'll be like, why has he picked this? Well, one, I don't think the artist drew enough Batgirl. I think he draws a real cool Batgirl, and it is this beauty of a book. It is Detective Comics 526, which celebrates Batman's 500th appearance in Detective Comics. Hey. Where's my notes? So this is written by Jerry Conway, art by Don Newton and Alfredo Alcala. Letters are by Ben Order, and colors are by DC colorist extraordinaire Adrian Roy. It came out in May '83, so this is my, I suppose, the oldest book. You can get this anywhere between £8 to £20 on eBay. Go collect. Have a grade 9 at $38. Now, I picked this book because I love Don Newton. I don't think we talk enough about Don Newton when it comes to DC stuff. I'm all about Jim Aparo, and as in my opinion, everyone should be, because he's fantastic. But Don Newton came in and gave this book a kind of retro 70s feel, the suave sort of hero. It is a team up book because the villains team up. Look at all that. That's a cast. Can we name them all?
I can name most of them.
All right, let's go around. Let's have a quick go. Professor, start us off. Who's this guy?
That's the Penguin.
13. Who's next?
Gentleman Ghost.
Next.
Two-Face.
Yep. Who's the one behind him?
Is that the gentleman?
Could be.
I can't remember if that's the gentleman.
That's the one. If you read the story, Mr. Freeze froze that guy.
All right. We don't
Can't
care about
remember his
then.
name. Yeah.
Who's this lovely young lady?
That's Shiva.
Nope.
Talia.
Talia.
Talia al Ghul.
Why did I say Shiva? I mix them up all the time.
Professor, who's the dapper gentleman in the hat?
That's the Mad Hatter.
The Mad Hatter. Who's next to the Mad Hatter? 13th.
Guillemot.
Then who?
That's Mr. Freeze.
Next to Freeze, the muddy guy.
That's Clayface.
Yeah. 13.
Dumb and Dumber, Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Yeah. On the floor.
The Riddler.
13th.
Scarecrow.
Professor.
That's the Black Spider.
Yeah, well done. 13. Dude in the green.
The Spook.
Is it?
Mhm.
So not the Mad Monk. Okay. Then.
Mad Monk has a red robe and a skeleton on it.
There you go. Guy at the bottom, Professor.
Nana, Catman.
Round us off 13.
A Cavalier.
There you go. See?
Are we going to go backwards now with their real names, or?
No. I don't get that much. So the bad guys decide to team up and take on Batman once and for all by the behest of the Joker. Of course, Talia gets things, "You're not hurting my beloved," or beloved, depending on how you want to say the word. Splitsville. So then you end up with a Catwoman. Wow. And Talia cat fight. So there's another team up. Excellent. You also get Batgirl and Robin team up. So this book is full of team ups. It's like a team up book all by itself. Lo and behold, things coalesce, subplots run ragged, and the upshot is that Jason Todd's first set of parents, because he gets retroactively changed after Crisis. Thank you. You get retconned after Crisis. This is his original origin. He's just an absolute Dick Grayson clone, practically. The parents get killed by Killer Croc, who I think, and I've said this before, is a bit of a proto-Bane. You know, the kind of guy that can, beat in Batman physically, not just mentally. I love Don Newton's art. I think it's brilliant. We say this all the time. It's of its age, but I love how it looks. This is probably some of my favorite eras of Batman. I love Detective Comics from around 500 to about 530, something like that. The whole Boss Thorn and Hugo Strange storyline that goes on for a bit, all that works. So here, it's just a fun Batman book. I didn't see anything. I suppose some of the legs, all the characters are really chest heavy, where it doesn't carry on through. But I can live with that.
Not Magnolia chest heavy.
Not that heavy. Yeah, not that heavy. I mean, there's a prime example. Nobody runs like that, Robin.
Robin looks a little heavy in that.
Yeah. Gets admonished by Jim Gordon. It's really hard because Robin's grown up now. He's in the teens, isn't he? So he's getting ready to leave. In fact, I think he leaves not long after this, if he hasn't already left. Croc being all Croc, and that god awful Robin suit. But no, it is what it is. It's good fun. I thoroughly enjoyed this book for sure. We'll go Professor next because 13th, you're our resident DC expert, so we'll go the Marvel fan first before we round off.
Yeah, no, this was my favorite book that we read this week because that was the Don Newton art on the Batman was really, this was, I always say it's of its time, but Batman is the first book I think in DC that has taken that step to kind of, change the styles and kind of bring it into the more modern age. This is definitely the later appearances of Dick Grayson as Robin, right? Because it's like he's got the big adult physique with that costume, and you're just like, that's not enough costume for you, pal.
We almost see utility belt.
Yeah. It's interesting. I did love Batgirl in this issue. This is my favorite Batman costume with the yellow shield. So, the big thing that I really love about this particular issue is all the villains. Come on,
Yeah.
Batman has the best rogues gallery, and to see them all in one panel at the beginning of the story was great to me.
I
Especially
agree.
especially the D-listers, like Killer Moth and Black Spider. Those are the ones that no one knows. So
I love Black Spider though. Yeah,
Captain Stingery was the one I couldn't name earlier, Johnny, by the way.
Captain who?
Stingery.
Which one's that one? Oh, the guy at the back.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I'd never even heard of him before this issue.
Yeah, I was no idea who that could be, but never mind.
Definitely does not have an action figure.
Yeah, I love this book. I thought it was great. My 13. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points you guys made. I actually like the cover a lot, using the negative space there with all the floating heads. And this was not an example of false advertisement. All these characters did appear in the book, so I did like that. Yeah, this totally brought me back to pre-crisis DC with Batman and Gotham, where, again, his rogues gallery, I agree with you guys. I would say it is the best in comics, and there's more villains that aren't even shown here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the other thing. It makes you wonder, like, wow, there's so many here, but who's missing? But yeah, it's
face.
Yeah, it's impressive
King
what
Tut.
they did here. It's impressive what they did here with all these villains put together, and to see Joker involved here. Yeah, it definitely reminded me a lot of 70s Joker reading this, but the feel that I got was kind of like that old the Batman movie with Adam West, where
All right, yeah.
back then it was a villain of the week and people tuned into the show, and if any of them teamed up, that's going to be something special. So here you are in the book version, and you're getting all these villains here in one book, and I thought this was a treat for the readers back then. I really appreciated the interaction with Talia and Catwoman, for sure. So their feud over Bruce is nothing new. This is a decades long thing. No matter what crisis version you are, pre-crisis or after crisis, that part of their personalities are intact. So I did like that. It's funny to see them in a cat fight, and then Batman's all right, hold on now. But I know you guys want to get at each other's throats, but come on, let's go hang out together. Only Batman can do something like that.
And also, I like the way how they just drive off together at the end.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he shows up for a date, and then both women show up. Is all right, guys. You know what? Let's just all hang out together.
What unintentionally, before just to interject, unintentionally, this book elevates Batgirl. I'm not sure, because at this point here, she's telling everyone, "Oh, I've known for ages that Bruce Wayne was Batman and you're Robin." And up to this point, nobody knew. It was like, so this is elevating her past. Just sometimes sidekick. She's now a true member of the whole Bat clan. Cool. Sorry, 13th, I jumped in.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to get to that with Batgirl and the running joke of today that everybody knows what a Batcave is. So now here's an example very early on that Batgirl was smart enough to deduce who was Batman and Robin. But if you look at the early days, it seemed like Batgirl always had an edge over these guys, at least initially, where they were wondering, who is she? Who is she? Now here in the book, I know who you are, but you don't know who I am. So I kind of, again, a nod to the 60s show there. And you got an older Dick Grayson here, which I appreciate that they teamed up Robin and Batgirl together, which is something you would have seen in the Batman family books.
Good call.
But at least in the detective in this issue here, Dick Grayson does have his adventure with Batgirl on their own. But then, they're both driving different roads, but eventually they connect, and they're all together. The villains are always going to be doing the villain things. They can't even trust themselves. They can't trust each other to carry through with any plot. That doesn't matter who would have come up with the plot. So you're going to have that. The Jason Todd element here, it's always interesting to go back in time and just see the prototype version of a character, right? Because this was pre-crisis. I almost felt like they were writing themselves into a corner with
Agreed.
Jason Todd at this time. I mean, the appearance-wise, he was different. Personality-wise, somewhat. It was like a blend of Dick Grayson and the future Jason Todd.
Mm.
And again, he stumbles into the Batcave.
That's just stupid.
You
That's
know,
probably the only negative. How he finds the cave. Oh look, I found a clock, a jar.
right.
Oh,
Right. I think the rest of his origin, though, clearly it got retconned later on. Jason Todd got retconned in general to be much more aggressive and kind of mad at the world for all the things that have happened to him. But that's a story for another time, though.
Let me ask you a question then, and this goes to both of you. Which Jason Todd do you prefer? Do you prefer the retcon version, stealing the wheels off the Batmobile, or do you prefer this one, the clone of the original Robin, the fly? You know, he's a flying Todd, for example, not just a flying Grayson. He ends up dyeing his hair black, taking on wearing the same costume. Gets annoyed that people don't recognize him and think he's still the same Robin as before. So, which one do you think? Which is your favorite, Professor?
I like the post-crisis version of Jason Todd.
Okay.
I mean, that's basically the one that we're all living with today. So,
Unfortunately, 13.
Yeah, I agree. The post-crisis Jason Todd was definitely much better. The origin story of him boosting the tires off the Batmobile made more sense as to how these two people could actually meet. So
Yeah.
that definitely made a lot more sense. But obviously, I enjoyed it more in the Lonely Place of Dying story because I like the ending for Jason Todd there.
I don't. I mean,
My bad joke for the day.
thanks. Just for the day. I'm with you. I prefer post-crisis, mainly for this. Where is it? So when Commissioner Gordon meets Robin just by the by the crocodile pond, where's it at? Where is it at? You can see that it's obviously a grown-up. Ah, there he is. I've gone 2 pages too far. You can see it's actually a grown-up Robin. You can see that. And yet, when he meets Robin, Jason Todd Robin, later on in Batman and in Detective Comics, he acts as if it's the same one. I mean, fair enough, you're an inept police officer who can't work out Bruce Wayne's Batman, but surely to God, you can tell when one sidekick goes from this high to this high. Surely to God, you'd have thought, right?
yeah. There was one clunky part in this story that I'll just mention it. It didn't really impact the story at all. But when Jason Todd sees the villains getting out of the car and he names them off and he says it's Scarecrow and Clayface 2. I was like, what?
Yeah. I read somewhere else. I think that sort of continuity gap happened as well in the Mignola Batman, Starman, Hellboy book. Commissioner Gordon said something about, oh, they were fighting Nazis. I'm like, well, hold on a second, you weren't there. That happened earlier today. How do you know they were fighting Nazis? It gets crazy, isn't it, when you get like kind of.
I think one other thing too with this story that kind of threw me off was there were a couple pages dedicated to Vicky Vale, and there was really no closure with that.
I think
it's just like they show Talia, they show Catwoman, and they show Vicky Vale, a love interest of Bruce Wayne, and then boom, she's out.
I think that storyline plays out in the next few issues, isn't it? I think she starts to suspect that Bruce is Batman, and that's why he's always missing.
I wish Silver St. Cloud came here.
I think that was before that, unfortunately. But Vicky Vale ends up dating Bruce Wayne for a while, and that sends Catwoman for a spin. Almost sends a catatonic. So, oh yes, that's my bad joke for the day.
There we go.
We're all at it.
Yeah, I love the ending though with Talia and Catwoman just driving together and threatening each other still.
Let me get there because I was there a little while ago.
It's funny because you don't have many adventures with all three of them, and here in this issue, they were predominantly all three of them were together.
Yeah. It reminds me how they interact in Hush when
Yeah.
when Talia's all like, I can smell him on you. Like, oh, all right, easy.
One final thing I mentioned with this book
Yeah.
here with Killer Croc, I didn't mind this version of Killer Croc. I felt that it was a new toy for the creators in Gotham. Like, not only is this guy crazy, but he's looking to be a crime boss. And but I do like the post-crisis version of Killer Croc better because he became much more animalistic, and that made him more of a killer, which made sense. Whereas in these days, he was just a little bit more calculated and kind of raw. Nobody knew the extent of his strength yet.
I like pre-crisis Croc because he was running the gangs. He's a true threat. He's, as I said before, he's like Bane, but from the 80s.
Isn't it funny in Nightfall how they fought?
Yeah, it is.
Bane and Croc.
But then, thanks to Batman the animated series, he ends up being a bit of a joke. So I threw a rock at him. Well done.
I just thought it was a guy with eczema.
Yeah.
I didn't like that version of Croc too much. The mental level of his intelligence was just they almost treated him like the Spider-Man's lizard.
Oh no, we've already the professor and I have already suffered that today. Thank you. Son of a
did.
All right, there you go. So team ups abound.
Yay.
So whether you like your Batman or your Superman teaming up with whomever, Spider-Man and Human Torch, which I suppose is one of Marvel's classics, I can safely say the best team up occurs on this show with you two. Thank you so much for spending the time.
I like the shirt you wore today because it was like telling us what we were talking about. Batman.
Yeah,
Batman,
that's what I put it on. I saw it in the closet. I was like, yes, I'll go with this one. By pure happenstance, all books were Batman. We will get back to diversity next time around, I am sure. We might even get round to doing the free comic book thing if we can think of any comics that we'd actually give away. Hashtag
that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, the professor hasn't talked about.
Well, that's why I had my pick, because I would give it away.
All right, okay. Good call. Right, that's it for another show. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Johnny.
Okay, so don't forget to check out UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor
No Price Podcast, all about the MCU, Disney Plus, and we managed to squeeze in a few comics while we're at it.
Excellent. 13.
Don't forget to check out the Definitive Crusade, where the discussion is always DC Comics. Batman's not discussed 100% of the time, but maybe 99% of the time.
I don't think we talked about that book last time, if I remember correctly.
That's the .01.
It was Wonder Woman, Superman. Was it Green Arrow book? I can't remember. It's been a while. I've slept since then. All right, and then don't forget, if you're interested in listening to comic creators talk about their products and their Kickstarters, don't forget to check out Outside the Panels. There you go. Drops sporadically when creators are free. That's it. We're done. All that's left for me to say, as always, I've been in the machine, joining the machine, Hughes. Adios.